Writing is no easy task. It requires time, effort, and creativity. When someone pours their hard work into creating something, stripping away their ownership and credit is extremely unfair and unethical. Although ghostwriters are paid, many accept these conditions because they have few other opportunities or it's near impossible to climb up and become more successful. As a result, they sacrifice the recognition and long-term rewards they rightfully deserve for their works. In, in today's status quo, ghostwriters are paid not only to write, but also to be hidden in darkness, deprived of their rights over their masterpiece. For them, this is their only path to survival, even if it means they do not receive the credit for the work that they do. Regarding the motion definition, this house would ban ghostwriting, a profession where people write for others and sacrifice fame for money. Model. To address any questions about how this would be achieved and its feasibility, our model would implement a law making ghostwriting illegal, and with any form of ghostwriting without proper credit, which is not ghostwriting anymore, punishable by fines based on the severity of the stolen credit. Instead of ghostwriting, there would be another more ethical solution, such as collaborative writing, where the person who helps and assists significantly actually gets the credit that they deserve. Today, I prefer one will be talking about economic inequality, forced path, and overlooking talent. From our perspective, not only is it unethical, but writers also are forced to choose between credit and means of livelihood. This leads us to our first argument, the rouge. Ghost writers are often trapped in a system that offers them two choices: accept payment and give up ownership or credit for the work. Keep their rights and receive little to no recognition or financial reward. It's like being stuck in a slippery canyon. Every attempt to escape only leads them back, falling down, breaking more bones eventually. Why it is true. Number one, economic inequality. Those who are wealthy or have money can afford to get professional writing done by ghostwriters and claim all the credit for the literature and profound language used. On the contrary, and take all the credit. On the contrary, those who are unable to afford a ghostwriter would be forced to do the work all by themselves. This results in even more unfair competition as they would have to do the work all by themselves, making it nearly impossible to achieve fame due to the extreme levels of disadvantages. Credit. Second reason. Ghostwriters should be given credit for their work since it is their content. Stripping them of all their rights, even if they are writing based on the ideas of the one who hired, it's still their content at the end of the day and part of their identity. Now, oppositions making us choose between survival and identity. Now, imagine doing all the work in one group project, only for your partner to just take the credit while you stay silent because you had no choice, because you needed something. You didn't lose the grade. You lost your voice and the right to call the work yours. Now, third reason. The opposition might speak about how they can climb up, ghostwriters can climb up and become professional writers if they are not yet. But ghostwriting makes it that incredibly hard since they get less popularity as their talent is hidden. But instead, a better solution would to introduce collaborative writing, where writers are given credit ethically, giving them the same giving them the same opportunity to level up and make themselves well known for the work they have done. Now, last but not least, most ghostwriters aren't wealthy. They are talented people who need income and have very limited options. The music industry, the publishing world, the internet. They're all controlled by people with money and platforms. A ghostwriter who will say that I'll write your song, but I want some credit too, even if I get a bit less money, would always get rejected. The client simply moves on to someone who's more desperate for money and would sacrifice rights to work. Impact. Not only are ghostwriters discouraged, but they're also stuck in a never ending loop that forces them to sacrifice money or ownership and credits. If they sacrifice money for ownership, today's world wouldn't even hear about it, since they have been hidden for so long and will again go unnoticed. To prevent from these unfortunate events, just 15 seconds, from reoccurring, in today's world wouldn't even hear about it. Yeah, so to prevent these unfortunate events from reoccurring, this motion must be implemented internationally. In the end, ghostwriting is simply a contractual theft. Thank you.
Ghostwriting is the fundamental way of how different styles of art is able to able to be created and gaining experiences or something that someone is lacking to become a famous star. We think that banning ghostwriters does not have any exclusive benefits on their side of the house. More than proud to oppose. Before my two constructive, some recharacterizations and rebuttals. First, some recharacterization. Firstly, ghostwriters are not exploited. They sign a contract where they're willingly accepting the terms and conditions of becoming a ghostwriter. Second, the artist doesn't always rely on the ghostwriter entirely. They contribute and collaborate to extend artists that completely use ghostwriters for their entire careers is an extremely rare case because it is very hard to maintain. And third, we see ghostwriters contributing in songs as a way for them to get money, experience, and lessons from older, more experienced artists as ghostwriters are sometimes their apprentices. Some rebuttals before my two constructives. First, ghostwriters are not always hidden in the dark and they're not exploited. It is not always the case, and there are checks and balances that exist. One is the law that lets them get fair compensation because exploitation is still illegal under both worlds. And the second is that ghostwriting industry is still really big in the status quo. There are also famous ghostwriters in the industry that are also creating famous for creating big songs and art. Even if this is true, we tell you that exploitation is worse under your side in our third argument. And the exclusive harm on their world is that you cannot be anonymous in the way that people want. Using they do not know who you are, but whenever you make a public experience appearances, they judge you and recognize you from your voice and face. No, thank you. Moving on to our team's first argument, which is how the ban of ghostwriting is an overreach of the government. When do we permit the government to ban and limit our freedoms? The government only bans people from doing something when it possesses severe irreversible risks on society as a whole. For instance, we allow people to quit their job or work in physically narrow environments like mining because this does not pose a harm to the entirety of society, nor are the effects of each severe enough to be irreversible. This goes the same for ghostwriting as they do voluntarily chosen to get paid for a service in return. This is a legitimate contract and exchange, and even if it simply isn't passion, they do not have tangible, concrete harm that happens to them, nor is it severe. A. Ghostwriters always have the freedom of quitting or choosing to pursue another path in the same industry. We think it is highly unnecessary that the government steps in and obstructs one's job. And B. Additionally, ghostwriters can actually benefit from these experiences. They make money and learn lessons from large artists because in various cases, these ghostwriters are beginners and learners. Therefore, the ban is a government overreach. C. What's the comparative? Ghostwriters under our world are able to have a learning experience and even in our worst case, a chance to make money. Under their world, there is no such thing that is certain that they will do without being a ghostwriter. And if they try to become artists themselves, they will struggle because they cannot go under the label. And even if they could, they will already become an artist themselves. Moving on to our team's second argument, which is how we make better art. Ghostwriter skills simply allow us to experience, especially because the artists that employ them are likely under big record labels that have a big overreach to the wider audience. Why is this? First, the ghostwriters have expertise. They may not have the qualifications of being a super famous pop star, but since they usually have more experiences and expertise with writing itself. On the other hand, there are conditions to being a famous artist to the public, as stars have to be attractive, have a voice, and good personality, and in general, they have to be marketable. But at the end of the day, people don't care as long as the music and art is great. In government's world, this is worse because ghostwriters are banned, meaning the singer has to write the entire songs by themselves with no help. That means there's a guarantee that there is better music. Ghostwriters increase the quality of art because they're experienced in the profession, and if their usage is banned, they are generally worse songs because first, the purpose of ghostwriters is that they can save time and energy by having another contributor because these people have busy schedules. And second, in many real life cases, busy schedules, concerts, world tours, etc., the delay of the day of when a new song or album comes out, and co-workers and ghostwriters allow for the entertainment industries to continue flowing without big time gaps. And for these reasons, more than brought up.
Imagine a world where people can take credits for work they never created. Now compare that to a world where a person whose name appears on a book, speech, or article is the person who generally wrote it. That is the difference between our world and theirs. Now, in proposition, we believe that recognition should belong to the person who actually did the work. So now, throughout this debate, opposition may tell you that ghostwriting helps busy people communicate their ideas, but this completely this they might tell you this, but this actually completely misses the point, because the issue is not whether people can receive assistance. The issue is whether someone should receive public credit for work they did not create. If we value honesty and merit, the answer should be no. Now, this is why we firmly support this motion. Now to my rebuttals. They talk about Maslow's hierarchy and and Maslow's hierarchy actually explains why ghostwriters accept these contracts. It does not justify them. If someone's so desperate for basic needs that they must give away credit for their own work, that shows exploitation, not genuine choice. Orban removes a system that profits from financial vulnerability instead of protecting it too. Additionally, they speak about how a contract is signed. True, but the contract is signed because they need the money. Many people won't pay because they want to keep all the credit to seem better in the eyes of the audience. But now, ghostwriters would have to sacrifice the credit for money else. Otherwise, um, will have to credit the money. Otherwise, they would ghostwriters have to credit the money. Otherwise, they might be exposed by the people, and they would not have they would have to sacrifice the credit for the money to get the so then they can have the money so it'll be easier for them. So now on to my argument how ghostwriting is unethical and unfair. So the claim is that ghostwriting is unfair because it allows one person to do the work while another person receives the credit. Audiences immediately think that that a published book, composition, or article reflects the author's own ideas and abilities, but ghostwriting can mislead them by hiding the true creator. So on to my reason why this is true. So credit is separated from effort. In most areas of society, people are rewarded for their own work. Students earn grades for their assignments, athletes earn medals for their performances, and employees get promotion for their hard work. Ghostwriting breaks the principle because the ghostwriter does the work through whichever field they're in, while someone else receives the credit, reputation, and more financial rewards than the ghostwriter. Success should be earned through a person's effort and not someone else's work. Now, to my second reason why this is true is that when people see or purchase these goods, they assume a book or speech reveals the true mind of the author. However, when ghostwriters write, it reveals the work of the ghostwriter instead of the actual author. The intelligence or insights the audiences admire may be manufactured or not actually real, or they might be very, very exaggerated, leading people to form opinions based on polished illusion rather than actual reality. This could create false perceptions of intelligence or opinions. So now, on to my impacts. So the first impact is that ghostwriting undermines authenticity and trust by creating the illusion that ideas, stories, and insights come directly from the person whose name is attached to them. When people discover that books, speeches, or public statements were written by someone else, they become more skeptical of public figures and less trusting of what they read and hear. It also reduces the value of genuine talent and effort, as recognition can be bought rather than actually earned. Over time, this creates a society that is less honest and less trustworthy. Now, on to my way. The debate should be weighed on authenticity. So the moment a society accepts that one person can secretly create work while another person actually claims the credit, we begin to actually weaken the honesty. Our opponents may talk about, for example, convenience. They may talk about how people publish books, but none of these benefits actually matter if audience can no longer even trust what they're reading because they might believe it's fake or manufactured by their own they might believe it's manufactured by that ghostwriter instead of the actual person and have these fake thoughts. Now, without trust, the credibility actually collapses. Without authenticity, communication loses its value, and that's why ghostwriting is not simply a writing service. It's an unfair and unethical practice that damages the trust and authenticity and the purpose of the public communication.
Ghostwriting is a core system in the entertainment industry that will not suddenly disappear just because the government passed a law saying it's illegal. Do not fall for government's utopian framework. Before that, there are arguments and reputations. The main point that PM brings upon is that it's an unfair contract and you're stuck in a loop when you're being a ghostwriter. We're not stripping them of their rights entirely. They rightfully agreed to the contract when they could have chosen to do a myriad of other jobs. Additionally, we thought that there are checks and balances already. First is the law that provides fair compensation because exploitation is still illegal. And the second is that the ghostwriting industry is still really being the status quo. There are also famous ghostwriters in the industry that are famous for creating big songs and art. But even if true, they said that this is the only path to survival. That is exactly why government cannot help the ghostwriter and are unable to protect the vulnerable population. Being stuck in a loop is the only option for them then to get a stable profit. Their world doesn't show how they'll benefit and have a good job. Their world does not provide an alternative. If they come out and talk about becoming artists themselves, it's not likely to succeed because if they could succeed by themselves, they already would have. And the reason they can't succeed alone is because they aren't in big record labels that have big outreach. Then it is only a minority of cases where ghostwriters actually succeed by themselves as artists. If there are going to be known writers that are credited, this makes the help unneeded because the reason artists use ghostwriter in the first place is because they want to take the spotlight. They don't want to give credit in the first place. They want to seem better, so they wouldn't use these writers under their belt because they're credited. Additionally, we thought that explanation worse in our third argument that I'll explain later. Second then they talk about how it's unethical and unfair. The structural reason why the government bans an action is when it poses a concrete, tangible harm that's sure to occur. Government doesn't actually prove this. There are things that are pretty much unethical symmetrically, like not having a job, since they're living off welfare that could be used for the people working society. Yet we do not ban this because it is a governmental overreach. Ghostwriters are part of their agency and choice. They should not be banned. Even if true that you ban it, as I already explained, they don't talk about what the ghostwriter will do alternatively. They cannot help these ghostwriters. They also talk about authenticity, but as long as the fans are happy, there's no problem. How are they gonna find out that they use ghostwriters if they sign an NDA? It's better for these fans to actually trust that the artist did use a ghostwriter or just believe in the authenticity of their art. We tell you that as long as they don't really recognize that they use ghostwriters, then it's fine. And second of all, this is a legitimate contract that both parties agree to. What is this? They're getting money at the cost of writing lyrics. If the ghostwriter believes that they want credit for it, they can go actually collaborate with an artist that will credit them in the first place. There are other alternatives, making us win on the availability of alternatives, and this also
Yuan?
mitigates their point on exploitation and how it's. I'll take it away.
Yes. So you were talking about trust, but if a if readers discover a book was secretly written by another person, then do you believe that actually increases a public trust, or do you think it decreases public trust? And
This is exactly the reason why artists make the ghostwriter sign an NDA, like a non-disclosure agreement. This is why it cannot be disclosed that they use ghostwriter or they are a ghostwriter anyways. They cannot find out anyways. Third are done on how ghostwriting go underground. So here's some analysis. First, while the entertainment industry of the artists still need ghostwriters. First of all, they need to make quality music to maintain their fan base, for example, maintain the same style of art that has gained them followers. Second, the entertainment industry is powerful and has lots of money, and they want to maintain it. They're already influenced for being shady and related to illegal things, like how their contracts signed for young Asian K-pop industry that promised stardom, but in fact put them years of grueling practice just to debut in one group of over 100 with no actual guarantee of success. Second, why is culture worse under their world? Exploitation more likely under their world in two folds. First of all, because it's legal anyways, there's no incentive for entertainment companies to put any more laws in the first place. Therefore, contracts will likely become more coercive and less considerate of the ghostwriter. Additionally, both the party that indulge in ghostwriting and the ghostwriter are punished by law because they're committing a crime under government, making it easier to blackmail with exploitive measures. Blackmailing will be worse under their world because even if government comes up and says that their contract nullified because it is illegal, that's not likely because the police can be bribed and their entertainment industry is structurally organized that people that expose the part of the industry cannot be employed again in the entertainment industry. For these reasons, so proud to.
I'd like to get straight into the main clash of this debate, which is that ghostwriting is not a stepping stone. What does this clash mean? This clash is about whether ghostwriting actually helps aspiring writers succeed. We say it traps writers in anonymity, but they want to believe it is a learning experience and a stepping stone to future success. Now, why is this true? In our world, writers can still gain experience through credited co-writing, assistant roles, collaborative writing, as we've said again and again. They build portfolios, get recognition, and use this learning experience that exists in our world to secure better opportunities. However, in their world, ghostwriters cannot claim the work because of their contract, and even after years of writing, they remain invisible while someone else gains the reputation, the connections, and the future opportunities. This clash is important because experience only has value when it creates future opportunities. If writers cannot receive credit for their work, then ghostwriting is not a stepping stone, it's a dead end. Therefore, we win this clash. Before I start my second clash, are there any POIs? Seeing as there are no POIs, I'll move on to my second clash, which is that ghostwriting is not a real choice. What this clash means is that this clash is about whether ghostwriting is truly voluntary. We say many writers are pressured into it because of unequal bargaining power and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is something that states that your need for money is more important than your need for fame, but they claim it is simply a personal choice. Now, why is this true? In our world, writers can earn a living while also receiving recognition for their work. The ban encourages credited employment instead of forcing people to sacrifice ownership of their creativity. What is the opposite? However, in their world, aspiring writers often accept ghostwriting because they desperately need income or a way into the industry. When the alternative is unemployment, that is not genuine freedom of choice. This clash is important because a choice made under economic pressure is not a fair choice. Our side protects writers from exploitation while still allowing them to gain experience and employment. Therefore, we win this clash. Before I start my rebuttals, are there any POIs? Seeing as there are no POIs, I'll go on to my first of three rebuttals about how it's a learning experience according to them. The opposition says ghostwriting teaches you valuable skills, but learning is meaningless if you cannot prove that you learned it. A writer who cannot publicly claim their work cannot build a reputation or use that experience to advance. Learning opportunities still exist through credited writing positions, so banning ghostwriting removes the exploitation, not the education. So, rebuttal two, it's their choice. The opposition argues that no one is forced to ghostwrite, but financial pressure and limited alternatives make that choice unfair. Accepting poor conditions out of necessity does not make them fair conditions. By banning ghostwriting and encouraging collaborative writing instead, as we have stated constantly throughout our speeches, that they have completely ignored and not weighed against their own case, writers can still earn income while receiving proper credit, recognition, and future opportunities. This also builds trust with the audience because the people who contribute to the work are honestly acknowledged. This removes um, opposition 2 came and said they get credit, so it's okay. Yes, that's our entire case. Give them credit, give them conviction, give them a voice and identity. She literally came up and supported our side. Then she said that the public would never find out that a ghostwriter was used without any proof to back this up. What happens to her trust point when the public actually finds out that a ghostwriter was used when she didn't prove that they wouldn't? It crumbled into nothing, and Op2 knows it. And thanks to these points, we strongly and passionately believe that the motion is in our favor.
Moving straight on to the rebuttals because we are lacking time. Firstly, few points of rebuttals before our two clashes. Firstly, they said that the use of ghostwriters causes loss of authenticity. We told you that this is a very radical way to define the use of mere enhancers, but it is merely leadership strategy at the end of the day. Just like a CEO using a speechwriter or individuals who have hired the ghostwriter are simply translating their ideas and their raw ideas into polished format. And they cannot merely assume that the artist also sits there on playing while the ghostwriter is suffering and abuse, being forced to write the lyrics. Because we tell you that in most cases that these people collaborate and write together by the artist providing ideas, themes, and writing choruses and major parts, while the ghostwriter develops the verses and parts that are less significant but still make up the song in a coherent way. We also say that greatness and expertise as an artist or expert cannot merely be defined and determined through authenticity and whether they actually write the entire thing, because the ability to perform concerts and many performances while handling the fatigue is what truly determines expertise and the ability to continue performing even when they're in a slumps or like they're and be able in the ability to consistently provide good music to the audiences is also what truly determines greatness at the end of the day. So moving on to the first clash, which is the radical government ban versus necessary regulations. Firstly, the government only bans conduct when there is direct, concrete, or irreversible harm. The use of ghostwriters never meet that severe and radical threshold. Instead, those who hired the ghostwriters actually retain acknowledgement through producing high-quality music via collaboration with ghostwriters, and ghostwriters earn money, potentially learn lessons from these ghostwriters who are individuals who willingly signed the contract to be a ghostwriter while acknowledging that they will not be credited publicly. This means that any potential harms are mitigated through individual choice rather than state coercion or any means of radical policy implementations. Well, no, thank you. The government removes this choice but entirely despite failing to prove that the total ban is necessary. Because less restrictive alternatives already solve the problem, their ban becomes disproportionate government overreach and not a necessary policy. Therefore, our role also achieves protection while preserving freedom, making it a more principled and effective model. We tell that in a modern society, banning the jobs of individuals simply because of the few drawbacks that they concede is very radical. And additionally, we tell you that as in their world, ghostwriters are not even fully protected because their world may have less ghostwriters due to deterrence, but worse exploitation among these writers who still choose to ghostwriters in like the black market. No, thank you. Our role also has ghostwriters who don't get credit but are still protected by law. Even if more people do not get credit under opposition, their side has a worse impact on their ghostwriters based on the analysis we provided in this previous speeches. Moving on to the second class, which side ultimately makes it produces better results? One point of clarification before our mechanism. By results, we refer to whether the user produces high quality art, such as music and the lyrics within them, or speeches from experts and authorities, and the influences that those speeches have to the public. I think the main clash in this question is comparison between ultimate collaboration versus individual action with the most reliable and helpful form of assistance banned by the unnecessary overreach of the government. As on their side, the quality of music and any form of art produced in industry is ultimately better and high quality because ghostwriters simply add on to the quality of lyrics, beats, and assisted production. The reason why artists hire ghostwriters in the first place is because some elements of the song they produce need some additional points of development so that the song is enhanced in the quality at the end of the day. Artists are capable, as our LO has elaborated, still undergo busy and occupied schedules, filled with gigs, content, and mostly consistently produce music to be stable and continue the stream of success to remain consistently famous and well acknowledged artists in the modern state so they don't get
Go
forgotten.
on.
Hence, ghostwriters assist singers and artists over time. Artists for what the artists are either one, less experienced or in need of development, and two, lack the time to finish flawlessly due to the fundamental part of creative, like schedules and issues hindering them. Due to the fact that collaboration has always been a fundamental part of creative industries, whether through producers, composers, editors, or ghostwriters. Banning one form of collaboration does not suddenly make artists more talented or creative, or instead it forces them to produce work with fewer resources and less expertise. In their role, at best, Gov creates a standard of authenticity, but authenticity alone does not guarantee quality and does not guarantee success between the audiences. We prioritize the actual outcome that audiences care about, better music, stronger storytelling, high quality art. Therefore, when we compare it at the end product, we tell you that we take this clash. And for these reasons, more than proud to oppose.
Two issues in today's debate. First issue is the ban on ghostwriting a governmental overreach. Government's role is actually an overreach because we tell you we have structural mechanisms as to why they're not justified to ban it. Because simply speaking, these ghostwriters do not have other jobs to do, and government concedes from the get-go by saying that they do ghostwriting because they need the money. They don't have other available alternatives. They don't actually explain the other alternatives that they get to do when ghostwriters are banned. They say that they will become writers that will be credited later on in the government bench. I already told you from my yellow speech that if they do become credited writers, no one will actually use them because the reason why they use ghostwriters in the first place is because the artists want credit all for themselves in the first place. Actually, this means that then they'll also go underground, which is not tackled from government. This means that these ghostwriters are more susceptible to exploitation. They lose on two wing metrics then, one on vulnerability wing and second on the availability of alternatives. We tell you that by allowing ghostwriters, we're not going against any criteria of a governmental ban. They do not give proof except that they're economic pressured to choose this. This is symmetrical across all people in the lower class trying to find a job. This is not exclusive towards our world. We do not ban lower class people from buying, from trying to get a job though. There's a distinction between distorted agency and banning. Second issue then, which makes better art. There's worse art under their world because government just talks about authenticity in art, but authenticity does not equal better art. When they're credited as writers under government, we already told that there are structural mechanisms to why artists are disincentivized to collaborate with them. Because ghostwriters lack something as money or attractive face or etc. So even if there are no ghostwriters under their world, they can't succeed because realistically no one will listen to them. Judge, we've pushed this point since LO, so that is not exclusive for under our side of the house. They cannot become artists themselves anyway. So we provide a chance for ghostwriters to express themselves and make better art. Then we win on magnitude. We thought that ghostwriters will just go underground, and this is less in scale that we already conceded to, which still lessens the chance and the scope of better art under their world. For these reasons, vote for side.
Imagine a world where anyone can become famous simply by paying someone else to create their work. Now compare that to a world where recognition belongs to the person who actually earned it through their own talent and effort. That's the difference between our world and theirs. Now, throughout this debate, opposition has asked you to prioritize convenience too, but we asked you to prioritize honesty. Then this debate comes down to one simple question: should people be allowed to receive public credit for the work they did not create? On proposition, we say absolutely not. The biggest flaw in opposition's case is that they confuse helping someone communicate with allowing someone to claim another person's work as their own. Throughout this debate, they argue that ghostwriting allows important ideas to be shared, but those ideas can still be shared through collaboration, co-authorship, editors, or credited writing assistants. The only thing we ban is secretly taking credit from someone else's work. For example, for example, Elon Musk, for example, writes a book and uses a ghostwriter, the ghostwriter can at least be a co-author on and be recognized on the book too. Now that means they never justify why deception is necessary. We also win the clash in opportunities. Opposition claims ghostwriting creates jobs, but jobs should not depend on hiding the real creator. Our world still allows talented writers to work with clients. They simply receive the recognition they deserve. Instead of keeping writers invisible, we help them build their own careers and reputations. Most importantly, we win the clash on trust. When people read a book or hear speeches, they naturally believe those words come from the person whose name is attached to them. Ghostwriting breaks that expectation. So, if audiences cannot trust authorship, they begin to question every speech, every published work, and trust is incredibly difficult to rebuild once it's lost. Finally, we win on authenticity. So success should come from your own effort, not your bank account. Now, their world allows wealthy people to buy reputation. Our world rewards genuine talent, honesty, and hard work. Judge this debate. Now, before I end, I'd just like to mention one example. For example, a week ago, I think Mr. Beast created a book, but he didn't actually write the book himself, right? In fact, what he did was he actually had another writer who wrote the book for him, and he wrote it on the book too that he wrote it with someone else. That's so now, judge. This debate is not about whether people deserve help writing; it's about whether they deserve credit for the work they never created. We believe recognition belongs to the creator, not the customer, and for those reasons, we're so